Welcome, everyone. I'm thrilled to be joined by Heema Patel, one of our in-house attorneys, and we are talking about agent as principal, meaning the real estate agent, the licensee, involved in the transaction personally as a buyer, seller, landlord, or tenant. Or I suppose they could also be a member of an LLC or entity. Also, Heema, how would you define what agent as principal actually means?
So if you have a vested interest in the transaction, that's what I would define as agent as principal. So if you're looking at a sole member LLC, a sole proprietorship, again, if you're a buyer, seller, landlord, a tenant, that's going to be you as principal. Now, keep in mind, FMLS may think of you as a principal differently if you're an LLC or a corporation or an investor. But for our purposes and for contracts, that's what I would define as something that you would need to disclose that you're a principal of, or that you have an interest in the LLC or the corporate entity.
Very insightful. I can see it is confusing, and common thought process is, well, it's not me individually, it's the LLC. But if I'm a member of that LLC, have an interest in it, then it would need to be disclosed. And disclosure is really key, because the Real Estate Commission is not in the interest of, they aren't looking to prohibit a licensee from buying or selling property, leasing property. They just say, because we do have increased knowledge, we have special training and so forth, that it needs to be disclosed to the public. So they say to disclose to our broker first before engagement, and then also it needs to be disclosed to the public in the offer contract, so to speak.
Yes. And the appropriate place to make that disclosure, even though technically it's not a material relationship, would be in that section that discusses material relationship on the GAR contract on the first page. And while we're on the subject of material relationship, GAR defines it as basically having a relationship with the other side that you may have with the other side while you're representing your own client. So, for example, if I'm representing a client and the buyer just happens to be my brother or a relative of mine, I would need to disclose that to my own client under the material relationship disclosure section that I'm related to the buyer, because that would impact my ability to represent my client, right? That might impact our relationship.
Right.
So anything that may cause a conflict of interest is one that you would disclose.
Very helpful, which makes sense because Seth, I've heard him say in the past, sometimes we over-disclose. So that definition kind of brings more clarity to that. And also when it comes to advertising by a licensee, for example, for sale by owner is the most common question. A for sale by owner would need to include a disclaimer that they hold a Georgia real estate license. Now, the GREC does give us a few different ways that we can do that, but essentially disclosure is key. And there is an exception, of course, if the licensee is working with a broker pursuant to a brokerage engagement. It's already going to be clear on that advertisement that they are represented and they have representation and so forth, and the disclaimer wouldn't be required there. But if trying to advertise independently, a disclaimer would need to be contained on that advertisement as well.
Absolutely. And just a reminder that even if you're agent as principal and you're not being represented by Solid Source as a brokerage, or you don't have a brokerage agreement with yourself, we still need all of the transaction documents. We still have to review them, and we still have to remain compliant.
And with the advertising as well.
Absolutely.
We hope that you found this information helpful. If we can help you here on the broker team here at Solid Source, please feel free to reach out to us, and we appreciate you watching very much.
You've been listening to the Real Estate Game Plan Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for listening.